Okay, in this video I'm going to cover packing acrylic, and I'll show you how to do that and how to prepare the acrylic for the soft liner as well. So just to recap, we have our spacer for our soft liner, we have our lower denture that's going to we apply soft liner to, and then here we have the prepared acrylic for the reline, and on this side with all that gross reduction is for the rebase. I have my acrylic somewhat ready, almost ready to go. Before I pack, you want to make sure that you incorporate your post stamp on the maxillary cast, as I've done here. And I already applied one layer of separator. Now I'm going to apply a second layer. And you want to have this glossy type of finish. Whether you're doing one layer or two or sometimes even three, you want to make sure you have a glossy finish to your model surface to ensure you have adequate separation. So I'm just going to step off camera and blow that off with a little bit of the air nozzle. So that's the finish that we want to see. Just a nice glossy layer, thin layer of separator. For the remaining flasks, what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this here, as well as this. And also this as well. And I'm going to apply separator just on the outside portion. You don't need to put any inside the occlusal portion or the incisal, just here. Just wipe off a little bit of the excess there. Also for this. You don't need to apply separator on the putty itself. It will not bond with acrylic. So, and actually separator won't stick to it anyway, so don't bother. And the last little bit is this flask here, all around the outside. Maybe just one more fine layer. Okay. We'll pop our pieces back into position so they're ready to go. Felt this one was a little bit on the dry side, so I'm just going to apply a little bit there. Just give it a final look. Make sure there are no wet spots. Okay, so from this point on, we're ready to pack our acrylic. Let's see if it's ready. Pretty much ready. So initially, you just want to manipulate the acrylic in your hands. So it's a bit of a doughy consistency. Now, whether you're trowel packing or overpacking, that's entirely up to you. Just make sure you're comfortable with the method that you're using, so you don't have any porosity issues or open bite situation. So I'm gently folding the acrylic onto itself. You can see it now, it's a little bit stringy. It's got a nice smooth consistency to it, which is good. Just gonna squeeze it together ever so lightly. Remember, heat and pressure will accelerate the setting, so you don't wanna overdo this. But basically, I just wanna squeeze it together and just get any of the air bubbles out. So we have a nice smooth consistency. That's really good. So at this point, we are ready to pack the acrylic. So I'm actually going to use the overpacking method. Notice I don't put too much acrylic back here over the retromolded pad. That will prevent you from getting your flasks to close. So now we're introducing new acrylic to the existing denture base. And as well as the upper. So until you get comfortable with overpacking, and that means implementing sufficient acrylic to prevent any porosity issues, I suggest that you trowel pack until you get to know how much is enough or not enough. So that's good there. This one, we're going to treat it as a traditional packing technique. So you can see the flasks are slightly open. This one here, I'm going to use some separating sheets, and I'm going to apply two separating sheets in between the flasks. Switch over to our hydraulic press. And from here, I'm going to place my flasks in between the press, and we're going to bring it up to pressure and leave them in here minimum 4 hours. I like to leave them in here possibly overnight. I think a happy timeline would be about 6 to 8 hours, because we want this acrylic to set somewhat before we introduce any of the soft liner. Because if we do it too early, the soft liner material will displace the acrylic, this acrylic here, because it'll be too soft. So we want this acrylic to initiate the setting and to harden enough to withstand the pressure when we introduce the soft liner on the lower. Right now, it would be way too soft. Way too soft. So I typically leave this overnight just to be on the safe side. We don't have to leave the upper one overnight, but since we're doing both at the same time, it's not going to make a difference. It's not going to hurt it. It's not going to affect the case. So I'm going to leave both at the same time. So we have two separating sheets on the lower. That's the difference between the upper and the lower. Between a hard reline and a soft reline, we need to incorporate separating sheets, and of course have a spacer in between. And we're going to bring this up to pressure. Just turn this around so you can see it. So I brought it up to about 2000 psi, and make sure you're using a hydraulic press that can hold that pressure for a long period of time. Some of them tend to leak and don't work as well, and you don't want to be losing pressure while this is in there overnight, or as long as you determine to have it. So we're going to leave that for, it's around 11 o'clock in the morning now, so we're going to leave it till about 5:30, so a good 6 hours, and we'll be able to separate the flasks and go to the next step and do our final packing with a soft liner, and we'll go through the curing times.